Welcome to ClipNotes.
The movie!
Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End.
The plot!
After the military seizes control of the sea, sailors across the world help Jack and Barbossa in a war to decide the fate of all pirates.
The characters!
Captain Jack Sparrow, a self-preserving pirate with an affinity for doing the right thing. Elizabeth Swann, a rich girl turned fugitive pirate. Will Turner, an honorable guy who uses piracy as a means. Captain Barbossa, a pirate who used to be dead. Davy Jones, powerful but cursed pirate captain under the control of a military force. So, Harry Potter got kinda epic with Voldemort showing up, and Order of the Phoenix is gonna be darker. And now that something as silly as theme park rides are making successful trilogies, they're gonna launch a Transformers franchise later in the year. But in May of 2007, Pirates was still dominating as being the only big, dramatic, epic franchise since Lord of the Rings. And man, were they hyping. I don't know if everyone was talking about it, but it was definitely everywhere you looked. And with parts 2 and 3 being made pretty much at the same time, there was a feeling of continuity and a promise of quality in the upcoming end of an era action-packed finale as promised in the trailers.
Did it pay off?
Who cares? Look, it's Johnny Depp.
Let's get started finishing this, shall we?
So it begins with as dramatic and dark an intro as possible. Basically, the East India Trading Company, powered no doubt by taking possession of Davy's heart in part 2, has suspended any kind of due process, and they're hanging pirates left and right. So they start singing this pirate song which pleases Lord Beckett. And then with the first implied hanging of a child in mainstream cinema since Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, tone of the film has yet again been set. I can't help but feel the similarity between this kid and young Will Turner is meant to imply that with someone like Beckett in charge, Will would have been hung before ever making a home in Port Royal as a kid. Coin falls, title, now over to some poorly lit ports. Fireworks, big hats that look like walk pans.
Maybe Singapore?
Sail tonight for Singapore, where all is mad as hatters here.
Hey, it's Elizabeth. Then this dude interrupts. Not only does he interrupt Elizabeth singing, he also interrupts the ominous tone of the film. And I'm not sure it recovers from this dip in substance, because every following line is so punchy and perfectly prefaced, it's all setups and punchlines. And then Elizabeth continues to be unsupportively an effective killer. So Barbossa's like, your boss is expecting us. And upon the arrival of British guards, the pirates sneak away. While more pirates, Black Pearl crew, sneak into the sewer. And Tiadama is on the road serving as a distraction. Then the security detail for the boss serves up the obligatory Elizabeth has to get naked joke.
You'll be dining with the crew, and you'll be naked.
Should it be a dress or nothing? I happen to have no dress in my cabin.
He moved.
And then they gain entry to a bathhouse with a bunch of guys who don't understand the main function of a bath. Ew. But they meet the boss who turns out to be Sao Feng, aka Mr. Tiger Hidden Dragon. Anyway, after Barbossa tells Sao Feng he needs his ship, it's revealed that they sent a spy into Sao Feng's lair to steal a very special map, and the spy turns out to be Will Turner. More plot setup. All that singing earlier means the pirate lords are going to meet up, and they need Jack back from Davy Jones's locker because he's a pirate lord, and as such he has one of the 9 pieces of 8. A piece of 8 being just a Spanish coin, like that right there. And the map they want will take them to
the farthest gate.
which I guess leads to the locker. Are we all caught up? Man, I thought they were going to get Jack because they were all sad about him dying. And how is Barbossa still alive? And where the hell did this pirate lord thing come from anyway? I don't know. Sao Feng notices this dude's tattoo is all runny, and that means he's a spy. A fight breaks out and the British arrive. They escape, explosions, sword fighting, and Beckett's right-hand man listens to Will make a deal with Sao Feng. And then Iago and Abu here cause an explosion to end the scene. Will's got the boat, the crew, and the charts. Montage time! Davy Jones blows up a bunch of pirate ships while Beckett is playing a game of Risk with his friend. He's debriefed on this big pirate meetup and Governor Swann is just signing off on executions and whatever Beckett wants. Which is weird. He did this so Beckett would agree to lay off of Elizabeth, but he has people hurting her anyway, which the government is overhearing in this very scene. But hey, Norrington's there too, and he gets his old small sword back along with his old job. I'm very fuzzy on how long it's been since Jack's death, so let's just keep moving on. Moving on! Looks like the Arctic, which, side note, clip note, according to Flat Earth mythology, the Arctic is actually the edge of the Discworld. Then Tiadama explains all about Barbossa's return from the dead, saying that she just kinda did it, but can't do the same for Jack because he's in the locker, a specific place in the afterlife that kinda reads like hell, and he was taken there body and soul. Barbossa was easy to bring back to life because he was just shot in the heart and left for dead on an island, which was then flooded and lost to even the most brazen pirates, but whatever, it's cool and it's easy. Now the nautical chart they got is kinda like a puzzle, revealing different instructions depending on how you move the pieces, which leads them to hunt for something called green flash. That's a real actual rare phenomenon, but here it means
It signals when a soul comes back to this world.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Beckett's getting fed up with Davy Jones and the governor, so he takes everybody to the Flying Dutchman where Davy is real damn sad, playing his face organ and crying about his heart-shaped locket, which cues him to realize that his heart is on his ship now. And that's where Beckett wants to keep it, because Davy's a take-no-prisoners kind of guy, and this will help keep him under control. Which it's apparent that he's in charge because he made Davy Jones kill his beloved Kraken. Hey, look at that! The crew has arrived in some peaceful still waters, where Elizabeth continues to feed Will's suspicions for her love for Jack. Then he also notices that Tiadama has the same locket as Davy Jones, and they're headed for a waterfall. Then they fall off a waterfall into an existential haze, voices from the original Pirates Ride echo in the darkness, as if they've completely left their own dimension.
Show 'em your larboard side.
tell no tale.
Which kind of proves that in the POTC universe, the Earth is in fact a big disk surrounded by ice mountains which taper off into waterfalls. But instead of it leading to outer space, it leads to this! Peanuts! So, Peanut. And if you've in any way started to miss how truly bizarre and art house Gore Verbinski seemed to be when he did The Ring, this brings it all back. I mean, it's pretty goofy, but Jack's self-torment and insanity is also treated with an off-putting two-dimensional tone, where all the wild, unhinged camera work of the franchise is traded in for a static, almost flat imagery, especially when it's revealed that Jack and his beloved Black Pearl are in the middle of a desert, which is kind of like the opposite of the sea.
That's like hell for pirates.
So all these rocks turn into crabs and start moving the Black Pearl. Then Will and the whole shipwrecked crew come up on the shores of this desert island, all feeling a little hopeless until the crabs crowd old Tia Dalma sorta creepy like, and the Black Pearl arrives. It's impossible, but it's magic, so it's okay. Now Jack thinks everyone is a mirage initially, and Barbossa tries to claim the Black Pearl as his own, which is starting to seem pretty childish, because all he did was steal it in a mutiny, and Jack is successfully raising the ship from its destruction for a second time.
Let it go!
Anyway, it comes out that Miss Swann here murdered him, so it gets a little tense while he picks people to board the Pearl. But he has to take everyone because Barbossa has the map. Later on, Jack and Barbossa are fighting for the command of the ship. Why they never do this when Will or Elizabeth are barking orders, I have no idea. But hey, those two are busy clearing the air down below. Elizabeth realizes Will thought that she was in love with Jack.
And we all did because of the compass.
But it's a big misunderstanding not to be explained here, so they're just mad at each other for now. Much later on, they spot a bunch of drifting souls in the water, which, as Tia Dalma points out, is all Davy Jones' fault because he's supposed to be ferrying souls who died at sea to the afterlife. Why some are in the water and other are in boats, I don't know, but it's damn sad when Elizabeth sees her dad on a boat too. It's heavy scenes like this that really make me wonder why the film got more silly action movie treatment than the other two when it's clearly a darker episode. But when Governor Swann explains again about the heart of Davy Jones and how the Dutchman needs a captain, Tia Dalma delivers this line completely out of context of the scene for the third time at will. Like, what happened here, internet? I need some production facts to make sense of this incongruity.
Oh. Well, okay then.
They let Governor Swann go because he's at peace. And next up, they're going nowhere fast. Everyone's bummed out. Tia Dalma's being the biggest Debbie Downer ever. And Jack is still suffering from a personality disorder as he talks to tiny versions of himself about the prospects of stabbing the heart and becoming the immortal captain of the Flying Dutchman. Then he pieces together from the puzzle map that they have to rock the boat until it flips over, which they do. And aside from a bit of overstating dialogue,
Rocking the ship! We're rocking the ship! He's rocking the ship!
making sure you get the idea.
Now, up is down.
It's another of the best images of this film, even the franchise, when the boat flips over and gets sucked into another dimension through the ocean. This is not a part of the Disney ride, but if the rides came after the movie, it would be. Should be. It'd be a better addition than Robot Johnny Depp anyway.
Anyway,
Back in the land of the living, they all try to kill each other because Jack doesn't want to go to the pirate meetup, and they all want him to because it's their only hope against Beckett. But their guns are all wet, so peace times prevail as they head for a nearby island to get supplies. Then there's like this shot of Pentel and Rigetti being overturned in a dinghy, just like in Pirates 2, even though everyone is going ashore and there's no reason or evidence that these two would take their own boat to land. Was there that much oversight in this production they neglected to get a shot of the crew getting to land that they thought using a take for a totally different scene in a different movie would make better sense than to just cut to them on land?
this is the kind of overblown nonsense that happens when you spend enough money on one film to fund an entire trilogy.
Ahem. Well, on that island they find a big dead kraken, which makes Jack sad, so he kind of agrees to go to the pirate meeting. But then they're taken captive by surprise Sao Feng and his men, thanks to Will Turner running a mutiny against Jack in order to save his father, who died standing his ground against a mutiny on Jack. Now I'm starting to think that Will Turner is just a worse pirate than his dad ever was. So begins the labyrinth of double crosses, because only moments later Sao Feng then sells out the entire crew and Will to the Navy, which gets Jack a meeting with Beckett. They revisit that bit about him branding Jack a pirate, but is there an answer to this question?
We've each left our mark on the other.
What mark did he leave on you?
Nope. The Navy takes control of the Black Pearl too, which makes them all pretty mad, but Sao Feng agrees to peace and the pirate meetup if he can take Elizabeth to his ship, because Barbossa has him thinking that Elizabeth is actually Calypso, the goddess of the sea. Then Jack agrees to lead Beckett to the pirate meetup, just in time for all the pirates to attack Beckett's ship, and they all escape. Later on, Feng dresses up Calypso and recants the tale of early pirates binding the sea goddess in human form so that they could rule the sea in her absence. Then he tries to rape her and he gets blown up by the Flying Dutchman, which is attacking Sao Feng's ship. So Sao makes Elizabeth the captain of his ship, gives her this necklace and says the 9 pieces of 8 will set her, Calypso, free. Then he dies, and her first action as captain is to be captured by the Flying Dutchman, and hey, it's Norrington! She's happy to see him, but then also mad at him because he was around when her father was murdered, but he didn't know. They're all put in jail on the Dutchman, and things continue to complicate. But hey, we're getting a much better look at all the weird Dutchman crew members, especially in the brig where Elizabeth finds Bootstrap Bill, who, not unlike her father, has kinda lost his grip on reality. But he tells Elizabeth that Will cannot free him from Davy Jones' ship because Will would have to stab the heart and become the new captain, in effect losing Elizabeth. Next day, Beckett's following this trail of bodies attached to barrels because that night, Will is tying bodies to barrels so that Beckett can follow the Black Pearl.
Yeah, the Black Pearl got captured by the Navy, but then set free. I said that earlier, but I mean, there's a lot happening.
Jack spots Will dropping bodies and he makes a deal with him. Jack will now stab the heart and take over the Dutchman. Then he gives Will the magic compass and sends him overboard to be picked up by Beckett's crew. Meanwhile, Norrington frees Elizabeth and the Singapore crew and gets himself killed by Bootstrap. And with his dying breath, he stabs Davy Jones. But Jones, being immortal and all, just kinda keeps his sword as a collector's item. And with General Norrington dead, the Dutchman monsters think they can take the ship back. But Beckett's men are still on board, keeping control of the heart.
Hey, look at this big island.
Black Pearl arrives at Shipwreck Island, where this little chat between Barbossa and Teodama reveals that
Holy crap!
she's actually Calypso, and since it took 9 pirate lords to bind her in human form, it'll take 9 pirate lords to free her. They put Calypso in the brig, and over on Beckett's ship, she's all they can talk about. Will, being the least cool character in the show, takes himself down a few more pegs by adding smugness to his list of winning traits. And he chats with Davy Jones and Beckett, coming to the revelation that Davy Jones showed the original pirate court how to bind Calypso in her human form, because she's the woman with whom he fell in love and was betrayed by all those years ago. So, Shipwreck Cove is a pile of wrecked ships in a cove, and the 9 pirate lords from all over the globe, or disc, meet up and put their 9 pieces of 8 in a pan, which turns out to be 9 pieces of whatever the original pirates had around at the time, including Ragetti's wooden eye and something hanging off Jack's massive head, and then Elizabeth shows up with Sao Fang's piece. She tells the pirates that Beckett's on his way there, so Barbossa gives a rousing speech to convince them to free Calypso, but that just makes them all fight with each other. And next up is what this whole movie should have been. Probably the best scene so far. Davy Jones face steps aboard the Black Pearl to confront Calypso, who is still in the brig, while both of them are playing their music boxes.
Story time!
Calypso gave Davy the job of ferrying the souls to the afterlife, but he was locked on sea for 10 years at a time. When he came back at the end of the first decade, she wasn't there, which she defends as just admitting that she's kind of flaky, and points out he wouldn't love her if she was any different. So that's the moment when he cut out his heart and got all corrupted. He says he doesn't love her anymore, but she makes it clear that when she's free, she wants him back, and then she turns him into a human just for a second. Now, I usually don't describe a whole scene beat for beat, but this is just a good scene. Davy goes through the bars to be near her, she vows revenge on the pirates for her imprisonment, and Davy finally fesses up that his heart still belongs to her, locked in a chest though it may be. Then he's out of there. Back at the pirate hideout, Barbossa calms the fight down long enough for Jack to say they should engage in a war against the East India Trading Company. They bring out the pirate code and the keeper of said code, who turns out to be Jack's dad, played by Keith Richards, the lead singer of the Beatles. This is really the best little homage since James Bond turned out to be Indiana Jones's dad. So anyway, the code says they need to elect a pirate king to wage war, and the pirate lords all vote for themselves, except for Jack. He votes for Elizabeth. So Captain Swann wins by a landslide and says they're going to war at dawn. After a quick heart-to-heart with Dad, Jack gets a look at his mother's shrunken head.
Only 2 double-deckers at 12 o'clock.
Hey, this might be a good look for me.
Where were we? Oh, so it's dawn and all the ships show up for a showdown. Jack, Barbossa, Elizabeth, Will, Beckett, and Davy meet on this island, where Davy apparently can go on land as long as he steps in buckets of seawater on his way in.
There's no point to magic rules if they can be bent on a technicality. Nah.
So Beckett outs Jack for selling out the pirates, and they trade Will for Jack and also agree to a war because Lizzie's still pissy that her dad got boated earlier. You know what would have been cool, Elizabeth? When the dork in the wig says,
Or you cannot fight, in which case only most of you will die.
You could point out that prisoner pirates are always hung, and a government that kills without due process gives no choice to its enemies other than to go to war.
Because you're a king, you could act more kingly.
So Jack goes into the slammer again and starts talking to himself again. They all prepare for war, and the pirates release Calypso by doing a quick ritual and telling her that Davy Jones helped imprison her. And then she grows into a giant. At the dawn of the do anything with CG era, these guys could have done any number of wild new things, but they went with the classic giant god, which, if you like the old Harryhausen epics and, like history, then this is actually pretty understated and perfect. So they beg for mercy, to which she responds, and then she turns into a million crabs and disappears. King Swann gives a rousing speech, I guess, kinda, I don't know. And the pirates hoist their colors. Calypso shows up and Davy Jones is pretty confused and relieved. Then there's this big whirlpool. Barbossa considers his mortality for a moment, but then jumps into war and takes Davy Jones head on in the maelstrom while, Jack, the main character, he gets out of the brig using leverage. Yay, throwback! But once Jack leaves, who are these imaginary people talking to? And then Jack gets the heart back from Abbott and Costello here, they still arguing. Yay, throwback! And with the heart out of military control, Jones is able to take control of his ship. Ew. Even when they shoot a non-dead monkey out of a cannon into a shark man's face, the shots stay wide and the action's pretty coherent. But bang! Basically, Jack fights Davy Jones, the ships collide, people are jumping from one ship to the other. Oh, and in the middle of all this, Barbossa somehow officiates over Will and Elizabeth's wedding. Davy smacks Elizabeth, and Will takes him on personally, which gets Will stabbed right in the heart. And Will gets killed with his own sword that he made all those years ago as a pirate-hating blacksmith. But with just enough time, Jack helps Will to stab the heart, thereby killing Davy and making Will immortal. Tragic, deserved, or too soon, Davy dies. And his crew attacks Will, and Jack escapes with Elizabeth by inventing the parachute and giving birth to aviation. Oh, where is he going? The Dutchman sinks, and with all the magical creatures out of the running, Beckett guns up to finally kill the pirates. But then the Dutchman comes back, and Will has a bandana and a big-ass heart transplant scar. Dutchman crew is all human again. Yay! With Will at the helm, they blow Beckett to hell. It's all slow-mo dramatic, but no. Beckett, like I said before, is set dressing. He's not an interesting villain. That was Davy Jones who just fell off a boat. Bye, Beckett. Victory hat toss for all the pirates, then Will and Elizabeth head to shore for their one day together on land before Will begins his 10 years at sea as the captain of the Flying Dutchman. Time to say goodbye.
Mrs. Turner.
Goodbye, Poppy.
That would never have worked out between us.
Miss Turner.
Hello, Poppy.
It would never have worked between us, darling.
Yay, throwback! She goes in for a kiss and Jack's like, nah. And that's because the last time they kissed, she kind of killed him, which is true to form because every man that Elizabeth Swann kisses ends up dead throughout the entire franchise. So it's safe for her and Will to knock the proverbial boots, which they do, and he gives her his heart. Literally. Back in Tortuga, Jack's ship gets stolen by Barbossa again. But Jack's got the puzzle map, and now they're all headed for the Fountain of Youth, which is near Florida. Post-credits, Elizabeth's got a 10-year-old kid whose dad is about to come back from the undead, and I guess that's nice, but Elizabeth is the pirate king and wanted to be a pirate since she was a child. Why doesn't she just sail with her husband? Well, the original Pirates trilogy comes to a head here, and it was dealt the trilogy treatment when the studio greenlit and produced both 2 and 3 back-to-back, but they had a plan with these 2 stories. Not to mention all the historical and mythological nods. Like, all these flags are based on actual whack-ass pirate flags from history, and the Brethren Court of Pirates, that was an actual thing! And most of the pirates, including Jack and this old Asian lady, are based on real pirates. Same goes for the figures of mythology like Calypso and Davy Jones. It doesn't have that cheesy showcase of fiction like Extraordinary Gentleman or Van Helsing. It's purposeful, thought out, and dramatically executed. But still, it feels like something went wrong. Well, at the time, it was literally the most expensive movie ever, and they hadn't finished a script. The director, the writers, the producer, all lost sight of the core of the story. The best parts of the trilogy is Will and Davy Jones, and that Jack orchestrates all of it out of either self-preservation or sacrificing his most wanted desires. It also doesn't help that Bruckheimer had the 3-hour epic cut down by almost half an hour. In the end, the fault probably all goes to Disney, who has a long-standing tradition of refusing to make quality, dark work. Even with The Hunchback of Notre Dame, they insist on things being light and cheery, no matter what! But movies overloaded with special effects and fantasy elements shouldn't keep a film from taking itself more seriously. I'm not talking brooding and boring, but at least make it less quippy and a little more thoughtful. Because it really sucks to give second thought to a plot only to find plot holes where you should find connections. But the Pirates of the Caribbean, well, it had a little bit of both. Not sure what else you can expect from a Hollywood blockbuster, so you know what? This is probably one of the best trilogies ever.
Yeah, I said it!
Thanks for watching ClipNotes summary of At World's End. Is that the end of the world of pirates as we know it? Well, probably not, because now we gotta do Stranger Tides. Anybody know a trilogy put together better than this one? Well, I bet you think you do. Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Jabberwatchy.